Don't let her get away!
Nothing at all. It's just that you are not short. You're very tall.
I am very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Frank, you really are a wonderful talker. If black could be made into white by talking, you'd be the man for the job. Hush, stop. Sir Prime Minister,
Agent Stepmother, have you found the king?
we have checked into all the wizards and witches we know, but all in vain. There's only one last trail left.
It's the best part of the best day of the year. Time to wake up the forest.
Hey, thanks for submitting your work and giving me a chance to look at it, talk about it, give you any advice that I might have. So what you said when you submitted the work was that you're an animator from Pakistan. While working on the TV series, you realized you had good acting skills and the show was fun, acting-based. People recognized you for being a fun acting animator. You have a secondary reel, which I'll also show. The biggest problem that you're having right now is getting a job in big studios. You mentioned that you worked at 2 different studios. I'll keep them off the recording if you want, because you said you had trouble impressing them. And so you want to know what it is that you could do to improve your reel, taking into consideration that you have shots that you cannot go back to and change. Totally understand that. If they're from a movie or a TV show, they're done. So guide you about what personal shots you would have to do to land a nice job. Okay, so let's take a look and dive in.
Don't let her get away!
Nothing at all. It's just that you are not short. You're very tall.
I am very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Frank, you really are a wonderful talker. If black could be made into white by talking, you'd be the man for the job. Hush, stop. Sir Prime Minister,
Agent Stepmother, have you found the king?
we have checked into all the wizards and witches we know, but all in vain. There's only one last trail left.
It's the best part of the best day of the year. Time to wake up the forest.
Cool. All right. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Let's take a look at the secondary reel that you linked to, and oops, not the picture-in-picture, so I can have all the information at once.
Morning. Did I oversleep?
Good morning. No, everything is fine, especially with Casey here. She brought in a sick turtle and offered to help out. With all of her experience, how could I say no?
Who could? You must be Mia. I've heard so much about you.
Am I still asleep? No, wide awake.
Excuse me, you got a lot of old stuff here. You got any old treasure maps?
Come on, Barney. You can do it. Hey, that's my move.
We're about to go.
Ow! You. Mia, what are your feelings on the stakeout? Are the rumors true? Is Carter Green out in the water right now?
My shift just started, but we haven't seen anything yet.
And we've been here all day. Move your bumper, Dion. Let a pro show you how to do it.
You really are a wonderful talker. If black could be made into white by talking, you'd be the man for the job.
You can do things no one else is even capable of, and you don't even realize it.
Cool. All right, so I know there were some repeated shots. Perfectly fine. I'm still glad I watched the second one to get a bit more of kind of an overview of what you're talking about, where you're at, and how to push you forward. So, sorry, I think it automatically started playing next thing. All right, so I would have to say that, one, I agree with you that you have some pretty solid acting choices through there, especially for TV stuff where I know the deadlines are real tight. You're flying through the footage, and it's tough to find the time to put in decent acting choices. But I think you did. I think there's a lot of cases that we can point to where the acting feels specific and interesting, which is great. I would say that the biggest thing that jumps out to me is inconsistency. And a lot of that might have to do with different productions having different schedules. I would just leave off the ones from your reel that are less polished because of the schedule. Especially if you're applying to the bigger studios, because they're going to want to see consistency in that feature quality sort of level. So let's go through and maybe I'll try and identify a few things to talk about. Turn this down. All right, so for the first one, I think it's handled really well, and I think the performance is really nice. There's a certain like lack of fleshiness on the face that I'm feeling, but that's really the only thing that I have about this one, is that it feels like it's very simple facial changes, and I think you can get more detailed. And again, I know you're not going back into the shot. I'm talking about things to look for in the future, and then I'll get to potential like assignments to give yourself to try these things out. So here it feels like all that happens is that she opens her jaw a little bit, and I think that you could find a different sort of fleshiness to it. How did the corners pull back and go into a slightly wider smile as her jaw opens? But maybe her jaw opens before the lips part, like this. Really exaggerated, but the jaw can open while the lips stay touching, and then they peel apart to get to that open mouth. And so there's those little nuanced details about how the pieces interact. At the same time you're doing that, you could also be maybe squeezing the lower lids up a little bit and the cheeks up a little bit from that, just a hint, not over the top. You don't want to go into a brand new facial expression. What you have is really nice, but it lacks a connectivity that I'm not feeling. And if she is going into a slightly bigger smile with an open jaw, maybe that is going to push up on her cheeks a little bit because her smile is getting wider and it's pushing up a little, which pushes up on her lower lid a little. And then if the lower lid is pushing up, you don't want to leave the upper lid locked. You also want the upper lid to kind of compress a little bit too, so that it feels like both of them are squeezing a bit. Just a hint. It'll give this feeling of everything being a little connected in the face without going to like a new expression. It's not about changing to a different expression than what you have. It's about connecting all the pieces in the change of expression you already have. All right, and then you go into a blink. It feels pretty good. There's the corners of the lids feel, whoa, that's a very big brush. Pretty locked, pretty stuck. But when we blink, all that skin moves and the corners kind of wrap around the eye a little bit. They come down and in. The inner corners you can pull towards the eye as well, because everything kind of squeezes around it. But then the lower lids actually move inward as they go towards the blink. And the outer edge of the eye lid, upper lid, kind of leads the action. So you could actually have, that's too much, but a little bit of leading like that, and then it'll feel a lot more organic. Right now, it feels a little bit like just a garage door closing. It's maintaining the same shape as it goes down. Now, I'm getting very particular here, and you might not even need to do that on a shot like this anyway. I'm just pointing out extra things that you could do to add that fleshiness. Because the blink might work perfectly fine for this distance of camera, for the amount that their head is moving, and you won't really notice some of those things anyway. But like I said, this shot works pretty well. I like this one. Alright, so then taking those same concepts into this one, when she opens her lids right here, you could have a little bit of the lower lid opening up a bit, because you want this whole like ocular muscle to feel like it's connected. That doesn't mean that every time the upper lids come down, the lower lids come down the same amount. It's that there's a little bit of connectivity, so anytime the eye shifts directions, the lids move a little bit with it. I don't see that happening in here either. Or when the lid is coming down this much, you want to have the lower lid come down just a hint, or come up just a hint. It doesn't have to be equal, but you want a little bit of feeling like all the flesh is connected. And so if the muscle tenses in one spot, it's going to affect the other spot a little bit. And then in this one, you're kind of dropping the smile as her mouth opens. That's great. That's cool. That's a nice subtle change. It does feel a little bit like it's like the jaw stops moving at the same time the corner of the mouth stops moving, at the same time the lower lip stops moving, and all of those things can come to rest at slightly different times with slightly different arcs, so that it feels like it's fleshy and there's different muscles firing off at different times. This one feels really cool, especially her jump, her take right there. Feels good. That feels good. This is really cool. I love this moment. That's very sweet. This one I would consider replacing. So this one feels very overacted compared to a lot of the stuff that I saw from you before that is much more subtle. Not that everything has to be subtle. Much more organic and genuine. This one feels very over the top. Like she's really hamming it up, which maybe she is for this moment, but it doesn't communicate the greatest thing about your acting choices, I guess. It's very hard to show off your acting skills by having a character that is hamming it up and pretending to act and be over the top and fake about it, if that makes sense. In addition to that, the way it's executed, I think, is on the right track, but there's just this slight disconnect between a lot of pieces. For example, right there, her head, right here, as she comes down, her head feels like it's kind of locked in place right here and rotates from a spot. I'm not drawing on the lip, I'm drawing like in her neck, behind her head. Stuck right there, and then elongates out this way. And it's close. Like, this is a good idea of having that fleshiness of like squash and stretch on the neck. Definitely I would do that. It's close to feeling organic, but it's one step too far towards being disconnected. And there's not one solution to this, but there's a bunch of things about how that works and the relationship of those pieces. Right now, there's a couple spots in this clip that feel like things are moving independently and too much on their own, and it doesn't feel like the weight affects each other. And so that's one of those cases where it feels like the head gets stuck and then just elongates without a really clear connection to the chest, for example, or other pieces like that. And so this is one where, because of the acting that's kind of over the top, and because the connectivity isn't quite all there, I would suggest removing this one and replacing it with something new. Now, I also want to stress that I do think that you're really on the right track for execution here. Like, tracking the arc of the head so that it does stretch the neck, and that you do have a little bit of these arcs and settles on different pieces is on the right track. It's about the timing of the pieces and how they interact with each other. Let's keep going and see if I find another example. Oh, there, right there. That's an even better example. Her neck feels really broken with how much her head is going this way and her chest is going this way. But, like, you have a great arc on the head, and you have a great lead in with the chest, those things are working, and those are things that you should be looking for. But the way the two of them are stacked doesn't work together, if that makes sense. So like the execution of this shot with the overlap, follow through, the arcs, the mechanics that you're getting in there feels a lot better than some of the TV stuff we looked at on the other reel. So it's on the right track, and I can tell that you can do this stuff. It's just kind of honing it in and finding the way that the pieces relate to each other. When we get to, this one seems cool. When we get to, that's kind of more examples as I talked about from the first shot, the fleshiness of the face. This one, I want to talk about this one. This one feels good. This is strong. It is very cartoony, and it is very, like, very big and broad with the acting choices and the performance choices, but it's executed really well. And I think that you are doing a really good job of finding those arcs and the mechanics and getting the polish in there in a way that isn't shown off in the TV reel. This one's very successful. Keep this one on there. But also do some shot work that is more grounded and genuine, especially for the places you listed that you want to apply to. You want the genuine, believable acting, the tender moments kind of thing. Or even, doesn't have to be like just 20 seconds of a character thinking and saying like 2 words or something. You can have more of a, like showing off your mechanics while also showing off your acting. So they could be doing something. They could be hammering up a picture and talking to somebody else while they do it and trying to set things straight. This is where I'm getting into the ideas of what you could do in your personal work to try to show these things off. Find an acting piece that is not overacted, that is not like big and over the top, like this magician guy with a hat sort of thing on stage where he is purposefully hamming it up. Or like the woman in the kitchen who is purposefully being overly angry. Something that's a bit more grounded. And give them something to do. Give them some task to be performing, and how does that work with the line they're saying or who they're listening to? It could also just be someone listening, but how does what they're doing, let's take the picture hanging example, how does what they're doing get affected by their thought process or by what they hear? So if they're like hammering something in and then somebody says something to them and they're listening, but then they say something really important and they stop hammering, and that changes their attitude. Those sorts of more grounded moments can really help. And then the execution of those, that I'm sure you can do because of what you're showing off here, will help those moments kind of sing and help your reel stand out. And you can then remove the stuff that isn't doing those things for you. Overall, I would say maybe, even for the time being, before you get another shot to put on there, you could remove some things from here and still be okay with your reel, because your reel is kind of long. If anything, you want them wanting more. You want the studio to look at it and go like, okay, what we saw was really good, but there's not enough of it. Can you give us more? And then you have the opportunity to say like, I don't have anything at the moment that represents my current skill set, but I'd be happy to do a test for you. Or if you give me an assignment, I can show you what I'm capable of. That sort of thing. But that's way better than putting too much on the reel and having them think that's kind of inconsistent. So we won't even reach out to ask if there's more. This one I would probably remove. There is a certain stiffness to this one, especially in the arms, but it feels like it's very stiff. And it feels like you didn't have enough time to polish this one the way that you would have wanted, judging by the other things that you can do that are on your reel. So I'd remove this one. Maybe this one as well. The run. Yeah, it's not really showing off anything that you haven't shown before, but then the run doesn't quite work all that great. It's a little poppy, a little clicky. It hits a wall at the bottom there. And then this one, I really like this stuff. All of that is good. When it goes into the walk, though, the walk gets a little bit less polished. For example, like the leg is moving, and then here hits a wall and kind of gets stuck there. The heel just plants and pivots from there. So that it's lacking a little bit of polish there as the contact happens. Here, like this is too high of a step for this foot position. This one works, and then this one would be more like here. It'd be moving through much more like that. Like that, I guess, the position of the ankle and the foot. And she kind of feels stiff through the walk. So maybe you keep the beginning of this shot, but cut off the walk. But just kind of find places where you can trim down your reel, and then add those new things. Add some more acting stuff. I think that's kind of what you're really going to need for the places that you want to be applying to, is more grounded acting that's executed at a really high level. You do have a couple of shots that are kind of singing really nicely for your reel, but they're all very short. And like, for example, this one right here, if we just take the beginning of this one, it's great, but it's also from far away, and it's a very brief moment, and then it's gone. So maybe have like a 10-second sort of upper body, but still moving and doing things and showing off your mechanics, acting piece. And I think that would help start you off towards the right path to getting the reel where you want it to be, and then keep doing more of those. Okay. I'd be happy to see some if you want to talk about reference or ideas, things like that. You're always welcome to submit again, and we can collaborate on trying to build a nice acting piece for you for the reel. But thank you for submitting, for letting me take the time to look at it, and I hope that it was helpful, and I wish you the best of luck. So, bye-bye.